Today, we're cracking open a really fascinating text, the Book of Sirach. It's an ancient guide that, believe it or not, might just have some powerful and maybe even surprising wisdom for our modern lives. So, let's dive right in. It's a question we all ask ourselves, right? How do you live a good life? Well, what if I told you that a book written over 2,200 years ago offers a kind of roadmap? It tackles that exact question head on, and its answers have been echoing through the centuries. So, here's what we're going to cover. We'll look at where this ancient guide came from, then get into a bit of controversy surrounding it. After that, we'll see its lasting legacy, break down its core teachings, and finally check out some of the cool symbols it uses. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. What is the Book of Sirach anyway? And when I say ancient, I mean ancient. We're going way, way back. The author, a Jewish priest named Ben-Sira, was around all the way back in 300 BCE. The book itself, probably written in Jerusalem, somewhere between 200 and 150 BCE. I mean, this isn't just old. It's like a time capsule, a window right into the thinking of the ancient world. This book is part of a whole category of writing called wisdom literature. So don't think of it like a history book or a set of strict rules. It's more like a practical handbook for life, you know? It's just packed with proverbs and teachings that are all focused on one big thing: how to live a virtuous, successful, and genuinely good life. Okay, but here's where things get a little tricky. If this book is so full of timeless wisdom, why isn't it in every Bible? It's a great question, and it gets right to the heart of a really long-standing debate. So here's the breakdown. If you pick up a Catholic or an Eastern Orthodox Bible, you'll find Sirach. It's in a section called the Deuterocanon. But if you look in most Protestant Bibles, it's not there as part of the main collection of books. And this difference? It's one of the big reasons why Bibles can look a little different depending on which version you're holding. But here's the thing that's so fascinating. Despite all this debate about where it belongs, the Book of Sirach has had this huge, lasting impact on Western thought. So the question is, how did this contested book end up being so incredibly influential? Well, its journey through history is pretty amazing. First, you've got early and medieval Christian writers who were heavily influenced by it. We're talking major figures here. Then, fast forward to the Renaissance. Its focus on wisdom and virtue, it was a perfect match for that era's whole vibe of reviving classical learning. And even now, today, scholars are still digging into it, finding all these profound insights. Okay, so we've talked about the history, we've touched on the controversy, but what does the book actually say? What's the real substance here? What were the core ideas that Ben-Sira was trying to get across? The first big thing, and this is really the foundation of the whole book, is this deep connection between wisdom and virtue. For Ben-Sira, being wise wasn't just about being smart or knowing a bunch of facts. No, true wisdom was having the moral character to actually use that knowledge to live a good life. The two are totally intertwined. You really can't have one without the other. Next up, there's a huge emphasis on justice and morality. The book is constantly talking about how important it is to be fair in all of our relationships, whether we're talking about business, family, or society as a whole. The argument is pretty clear. A just world can only be built by moral people who act with integrity, especially when it comes to the poor and the vulnerable. The book also gets really real about human nature. It's incredibly practical. It looks at our strengths, sure, but it also acknowledges our weaknesses. So it doesn't just point a finger and say, hey, be good. Instead, it gives actual, specific advice on how to work on things like humility, self-control, and compassion in our day-to-day lives. And finally, a major theme is faith and worship. See, for the author, all this stuff about virtue and justice, it's not just some ancient self-help program. The book really stresses that true wisdom is rooted in a deep sense of reverence and devotion. It all ties back to a spiritual foundation. Now, this is one of my favorite parts. What's so cool about this book is how it teaches these lessons. It's not just a dry list of rules. It uses these powerful, almost poetic symbols to make the ideas really stick with you. So, for example, take the rose tree. The author uses it to connect nature with morality. A rose tree is presented as this beautiful symbol of wisdom and virtue. Why? Well, because it's something that you have to carefully cultivate and tend to if you want it to grow and blossom, just like wisdom. Then you've got the olive tree.
You have to remember, back in the ancient world, the olive tree was everything. It was a source of food, oil for cooking, oil for lamps. It was incredibly valuable. So Sirach uses it as a symbol for the community, for God's people, to show just how important, resilient, and valuable they are to the world.
And the last one we'll look at is the vineyard. This one is used as a big analogy for human life itself. Think about it. A successful, fruitful vineyard doesn't just happen by accident, right? It takes constant care, a ton of attention, and a lot of nurturing. The message couldn't be clearer. The exact same thing is true for a good life.
All right, so let's quickly recap what we've covered. We've seen that Sirach is this ancient book of super practical wisdom literature. We know its inclusion in the Bible is a big historical debate, but despite that, it has deeply influenced Western thought for centuries. And it does this by teaching about virtue, justice, and faith, using these amazing symbols like the rose, the olive tree, and the vineyard to make it all memorable.
And all of this leaves us with one final big question to think about. In our world of constant change, with everything moving so fast, what can a book that's over 2,200 years old really teach us about living a good life today? Maybe a lot more than we think.